Since its discovery in the 20th century, nuclear energy has transformed the world. Its ability to produce energy on a large scale has led to major advancements, but also human errors and poor decisions that have left lasting scars. Today, we'll explore the 10 most radioactive places on the planet. Let's get started. Number 1. Abadia de Goiás. Abadia de Goiás is a small town located in the state of Goiás, in central Brazil. At first glance, it seems like a picturesque and peaceful place, far from the problems of big cities. However, just outside the town lies a dark legacy of radioactive contamination. In 1987, in the nearby city of Goiânia, 2 scrap metal collectors found a cesium-137 capsule at the abandoned former Goiânia Institute of Radiotherapy. Unaware of the dangerous nature of the material, they handled it, broke it open, and shared pieces of the capsule with family and friends, resulting in widespread radioactive contamination. Once authorities were alerted, cleanup efforts to remove the material from the contaminated area stretched on for months. Homes and buildings were demolished, and affected residents were relocated. The cleanup produced 13.5 tons of radioactive waste, which was packed and sealed into 1,200 boxes and 2,900 drums, and is now stored at the Regional Center for Nuclear Sciences in Abadia de Goiás, making it the most contaminated site in the country. Number 2. La Piedrera. La Piedrera is a site located in the Samalayuca Desert, in the state of Chihuahua, northern Mexico. It's known for its stunning sand dunes, dry shrubs, and desert landscape. However, this area hides a terrible secret, as it's the site of Mexico's worst radioactive tragedy. In the 1980s, due to a series of irregularities at a private hospital in Ciudad Juarez, a cobalt-60 radiation unit ended up at a scrapyard in the city, contaminating all the metal that was processed and recycled. The contaminated metal was then sent across the country, and even to the United States, with no one knowing it contained dangerously high levels of radiation. After an extensive investigation and international mobilization, more than 36,000 tons of contaminated material, including rods, metal bases, scrap metal, containers, and contaminated soil, were confiscated. All of this was abandoned at this site, and according to many current reports, there have been instances of people stealing materials, believing that the radiation has disappeared, which is, in fact, incorrect. So, if anyone from Ciudad Juarez bought cheap materials, they should definitely get a radiation detector. Number 3. Bikini Atoll. Bikini Atoll is part of the Marshall Islands, located in the Central Pacific. The island is a coral atoll consisting of 23 islands surrounding a lagoon. Before its tragedy, it was popular for its natural beauty, white sandy beaches, and coral reefs. It became a part of the United States after being occupied during World War II, but its troubles began when the U.S. started a series of 20 nuclear tests between 1946 and 1958. These tests included detonations both in the atmosphere and underwater, resulting in radioactive contamination of the island and its surroundings. The native population was displaced to allow the tests, and the island has remained uninhabited ever since. The Marshall Islands became fully independent in 1990, but being part of the U.S. left them with this legacy. Despite cleanup efforts by the U.S. government, Bikini Atoll remains a contaminated and dangerous place due to residual radiation, and it is not considered safe for human habitation in the long term. Number 4. Nevada Test Site. This site is located in the Mojave Desert, to the west of the contiguous United States, in one of the country's least populated desert areas. Before being used as a nuclear test site, the region was sparsely populated, with a few nearby mining communities and grazing areas. The site was established by the U.S. government in the 1950s as a place to conduct atmospheric and underground nuclear tests. Between 1951 and 1992, over 1,000 nuclear tests were conducted there, some public and others classified, releasing large amounts of radioactive material and impacting nearby communities. Although nuclear testing ceased in the 1990s, the region remains a concern due to persistent radioactive contamination. Cleanup and environmental monitoring efforts have been made, but risks to human health and the environment still persist. Number 5. Mailuu-Suu. Mailuu-Suu is a city located in southern Kyrgyzstan, in a mountainous valley surrounded by the Tian Shan Mountains. This city lies in a region rich in uranium and other minerals. Before mining began, the area was known for its natural beauty and agriculture. Between 1948 and 1991, the Soviet Union extracted uranium from Mailuu-Suu using highly contaminating mining methods. Radioactive waste was indiscriminately dumped into rivers and accumulated in makeshift landfills, contaminating the water, soil, and air. This led to a sharp increase in cancer cases, birth defects, and respiratory diseases among the local population for decades. Today, Mailuu-Suu remains one of the most contaminated areas in the world. Radiation levels in the valley exceed international safety standards in some areas, and it has one of the highest recorded cancer rates. Cleanup efforts have been slow and ineffective, and the local population continues to suffer from these mismanagements. Number 6. Mururoa Atoll. Mururoa Atoll is a coral atoll located in French Polynesia, right in the Pacific Ocean. Being in one of the most remote places on Earth, you might have never heard of its name. But like many Pacific islands, it stands out for its natural beauty, pristine beaches, and impressive marine wildlife. The tragedy of this island began in 1966 when the French government selected it for its nuclear weapons tests. In total, 193 nuclear bombs were detonated on this small atoll, most of them underwater, irreparably contaminating the island's foundation and exposing the native populations of surrounding islands to dangerous levels of radiation. The nuclear tests ended in 1995, but the island's coral reefs were destroyed, and most of the atoll is now uninhabitable due to the high radiation levels. It is estimated that at least 10,000 people from nearby areas developed cancer and other radiation-related illnesses. Number 7. Semipalatinsk Test Site. The Semipalatinsk Test Site is located in northeastern Kazakhstan, in an arid landscape with endless steppes, low hills, and sparse vegetation. The Soviet Union turned this remote location into a nuclear testing ground, taking advantage of its isolation and low population density. Between 1949 and 1989, the Soviet Union detonated 456 nuclear bombs there, releasing radiation equivalent to tens of thousands of Hiroshima bombs. The tests were conducted both on the surface and in the atmosphere, with little regard for the human health or environmental consequences. The local nomadic communities, who were unaware of the dangers of these detonations, were not properly relocated. Radioactive dust from the explosions fell over nearby populations, exposing thousands of people to lethal doses of radiation. This left behind a legacy of widespread radioactive contamination, along with high rates of cancer and birth defects. Although nuclear testing in the Semipalatinsk Test Site ceased in 1989, the region remains heavily contaminated and is considered one of the most radioactive areas in the world. Number 8. Mayak Nuclear Plant. The Mayak Nuclear Plant is located in the Ural Mountains region of Russia, in a mountainous and forested area. It was one of the most secret and strategic centers of the Soviet Union, dedicated to nuclear fuel processing and the production of materials for nuclear weapons during the Cold War. In 1957, a nuclear waste tank exploded, releasing large amounts of radioactive material into the air and contaminating the Teka River. The Soviet authorities kept the disaster hidden from the world for decades. The radioactive cloud contaminated an area of 5,000 square miles, affecting hundreds of thousands of people. Although much of the radioactive waste has been cleaned up, there are still areas where these wastes are indiscriminately dumped, such as the Teka River and especially Karachay Lake. During heat waves, when the lake dries up, it releases large amounts of radioactive dust into the atmosphere, exposing thousands of people and causing long-term health issues and deaths. Number 9. Fukushima Nuclear Plant. The Fukushima nuclear plant is located on the northwest coast of Japan, about 155 miles from Tokyo. It was built between 1967 and 1970 and housed 6 nuclear reactors, making it one of the largest in the world at the time and a symbol of Japan's booming economy. However, on March 11, 2011, a magnitude 9 earthquake, one of the most powerful on record, triggered a tsunami so strong it damaged the emergency diesel generators, preventing proper cooling of the reactors and leading to nuclear meltdowns. The overheating and meltdown of the cores caused a series of explosions and fires, releasing radioactive material into the atmosphere and the ocean. Currently, the damaged reactors continue to be cooled with water, which is then released into the sea. The process of decommissioning and decontaminating the plant is expected to take between 30 and 40 years, and many of the contaminated areas will remain unsafe for centuries. Number 10. Chernobyl Nuclear Plant. The Chernobyl nuclear plant is located near Pripyat in the northern part of Ukraine, situated in a forested area surrounded by fields and villages. It was a modern atomic power plant and a source of pride for the Soviet Union. However, the plant reflected one of the USSR's biggest problems: corruption. Opting for cheaper materials, it became vulnerable to problems that could have been easily avoided at other plants around the world. On April 26, 1986, during a routine safety test, human errors and design flaws caused Reactor 4 to explode, sending columns of black smoke and radioactive particles into the atmosphere. The radiation released was 400 times greater than the combined force of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs, contaminating not only its immediate surroundings but also areas in Ukraine, Belarus, and other parts of Europe. Today, the 18.6-mile exclusion zone around the plant remains contaminated, and the reactors had to be covered with sarcophagi to prevent further radiation leaks. It is estimated that it will take thousands of years for the area to be completely safe for human life. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and comment on this video, as it would help me a lot. I also want to thank the members of the channel for their amazing support. It really means a lot to me. That's all for now. Goodbye.